I don't know what y'all got going on or what y'all used to or what y'all been getting away with, but it's not sliding, bro. This is a shout out to Zeus Network, bro. I know real Crips and I know real Bloods, bro. I don't care. And then they know who to try this shit with, bro. They didn't do this to Blueface. They didn't do this when I was on set with Blueface. That's why Blueface was always around. Not because, he was really like protecting me too, but at the same time, he just like them too. Like, I don't trust nothing. I don't trust none of that for real. I really don't, bro. I really don't, bro. But I'm telling you, my nigga, like, Lenny Plummer, I'm calling you out. I'm calling you out, bro. I'm calling you out, bro. I'm calling you out, bro. If you want to sit down with my pastor Mike, my father, bro, for real, this is bigger than me, man. And I feel like this attack was sent from the enemy, for real. And then it's like, it's using people, places, and power. Like Lemmy got a lot of power to hurt me just because I'm being 100 on this live right now. So now I gotta call people that really love me and that know daggone well. No daggone well. For real. Lenny Plummer, you can sit down with my dad. Real stuff, bro. You can sit down with my dad, Lenny Plummer. For real, bro. His name is Pastor Mike Freeman, bro. You over here got $1 billion. Tearing down people. You got $1 billion tearing down people. For your gain. And then when we speak up, you silence us with power. You're not silencing me, bro. I know Jesus Christ, bro.
This didn't leak quietly. This didn't slip out by accident. This detonated. Because when Chrisean Rock finally said what she'd been holding back, it wasn't just about contracts, cameras, or reality TV drama. It was about family. And once family gets dragged into the spotlight, things stop being entertainment real fast. According to Chrisean, Zeus Network didn't just film her life, they fed off it. She's claiming her family's pain, chaos, and instability weren't just captured. They were used, packaged, monetized, turned into binge-worthy episodes while everyone else counted views and checks. And if that sounds uncomfortable, that's because it is. The internet froze for half a second, then exploded. Blogs ran with it. Fans picked sides instantly, and Zeus said absolutely not. Full denial. No wrongdoing. No exploitation. Just business as usual. Which only made people lean closer to their screens like, oh, this is about to get ugly. Because when a network built on chaos gets accused of profiting off real suffering, the story stops being about reality TV and starts sounding like a documentary Netflix would drop at midnight with ominous music. And suddenly everyone's asking the same question. Was this just another Chrisean meltdown? Or did she just expose how reality TV really works behind the scenes? Because once you hear what she's claiming, you don't look at Zeus the same ever again. Chrisean Rock has never whispered anything in her life. So when she finally decided to talk, it didn't come out as a calm statement or a carefully polished interview. It came out like a dam breaking. 1 minute the internet was arguing about clips and catchphrases, and the next minute she was claiming that her family wasn't just filmed by Zeus Network. They were used. Not misunderstood. Not misedited. Used. And that single word flipped the entire narrative upside down, according to Chrisean Rock. What viewers saw on screen wasn't just messy reality TV. It was real family dysfunction turned into content. Real pain stretched into storylines. Real instability edited for cliffhangers. She suggested that moments that should have triggered concern behind the scenes instead triggered production meetings. Because when chaos equals ratings, compassion tends to clock out early. At first, people rolled their eyes. Because Chrisean has a history of explosive emotions and public breakdowns. Fair or not, that reputation followed her into this moment. Critics immediately labeled it another rant, another bridge-burning episode in a career built on volatility. But then she kept talking. And the details didn't sound random. They sounded specific. She spoke about how often her family was pulled into filming during their lowest moments. How cameras didn't back off when things got uncomfortable. How conflict wasn't just captured, but encouraged to stretch longer, louder, and uglier. According to her, chaos wasn't a side effect. It was the product. And suddenly, what used to feel like guilty pleasure entertainment started feeling a lot more predatory. Fans started replaying episodes with new eyes. Scenes that once felt dramatic now felt invasive. Emotional breakdowns that were edited for shock suddenly looked like cries for help. People noticed how frequently family members appeared when things were already spiraling, not stabilizing. And that's when the question changed. Not is Chrisean exaggerating, but why did this ever feel normal to watch? Chrisean claimed that boundaries were basically non-existent. That once her family became part of the content machine, there was no off switch. Arguments didn't cool down off camera. They got hotter on camera. Private pain became public property. And the more uncomfortable it got, the more valuable it seemed to become. She didn't frame herself as innocent. She admitted she played her role. She showed up. She gave them moments. But she drew a hard line when it came to her family. According to her, they weren't media trained. They weren't prepared for what fame does when it collides with unresolved trauma. And yet, they were thrown into the spotlight anyway, expected to perform dysfunction on demand. That's where the sarcasm practically writes itself. Because nothing says entertainment like turning generational pain into episodic content with dramatic music and cliffhanger edits. Nothing says network responsibility like watching a family unravel and thinking, great TV. Fans weren't laughing as much anymore once they sat with that idea. The first reactions were chaotic. Some viewers defended Zeus immediately, pointing out contracts, consent, and the fact that reality TV has never claimed to be therapy. Others argued that consent doesn't erase exploitation, especially when vulnerable people don't fully understand the long-term consequences of being broadcast at their worst. And once that argument hit mainstream timelines, it didn't stop. Chrisean suggested that when her family struggled, there was no pause in production. No concern beyond whether the footage was usable. Moments that should have triggered intervention instead triggered editing decisions. She painted a picture of a system that thrives on instability, not healing. And whether people believed her or not, the image was disturbing enough to stick. Zeus didn't hesitate to respond. The denial came fast and clean. No exploitation. No wrongdoing. Everything by the book. Contracts honored. Participants consenting adults. In corporate language, it was the equivalent of saying, "We did nothing wrong and we have paperwork to prove it." But that response didn't calm the storm. It fueled it. Because when someone says, "We followed the rules," the internet immediately asks, "But were the rules ethical?" Viewers began questioning the entire model of chaos-based reality TV. If drama is the currency, where does responsibility start and end? Is a network obligated to step in when real harm appears? Or is the camera always supposed to keep rolling as long as ratings stay high? Chrisean's accusations didn't just target one company. They challenged an entire genre. What made this moment heavier was how personal it felt. This wasn't just about her image or her brand. This was about people related to her by blood being pulled into a system they didn't design and couldn't control. She framed it as a power imbalance, a network with resources, lawyers, and producers versus a family already dealing with instability and public scrutiny. And power imbalance is a phrase that makes even casual viewers sit up straighter. Fans began pulling quotes from episodes, lining them up with her claims. Moments where producers seemed absent during chaos. Confessionals that felt emotionally raw instead of reflective. Scenes that ended not with resolution, but with escalation. Suddenly, entertainment started to look like extraction. By the end of this phase, the scandal had fully ignited. This was no longer about whether Chrisean was doing too much. It was about whether reality TV had crossed a line everyone pretended didn't exist. And once that line is questioned, it can't be unseen. The tension was thick. Because if even half of what she claimed was true, then the fallout wouldn't just be loud. It would be structural. And the internet could already sense it. This wasn't a one-day outrage cycle. This was the opening chapter of something messier, deeper, and far more uncomfortable. Once Chrisean's accusations stopped sounding like noise and started sounding like a pattern, the internet did what it always does best. It escalated. This wasn't just outrage anymore. This was a full-blown cultural autopsy. Clips were stitched, slowed down, zoomed in, and replayed like evidence in a trial nobody asked for but everyone was suddenly invested in. And the more people looked, the more uncomfortable the picture became. Reaction channels went into overdrive. Some tried to defend Zeus Network by reminding viewers that reality TV has never promised morality. Others leaned all the way into the accusation, saying the entire business model runs on chaos, like a car runs on gas. And then there were the people in the middle, the ones who didn't know what to think anymore, which is always the most dangerous group. Because confusion keeps people watching, memes flooded timelines instantly. People joked that Zeus didn't just film drama, it marinated in it. Others said the network treats emotional breakdowns like season finales. There were sarcastic captions about healing arcs that never actually heal, only reset for the next episode. Laughing emojis were everywhere, but the laughter felt nervous. The kind of laugh you make when you realize you've been entertained by something that might actually be wrong. As the clips resurfaced, viewers started noticing patterns they hadn't clocked before. How often family members were brought in right when things were already spiraling. How rarely conflict de-escalated on screen. How arguments never seemed to end peacefully, only pause until the next confrontation. People began asking a question that reality TV hates. Is this documenting chaos or manufacturing it? Chrisean didn't let the conversation cool down either. She doubled down. She clarified that she wasn't talking about bad edits or hurt feelings. She was talking about systems, about incentives, about how the messier things got, the more valuable they became. And when someone says that out loud, it forces everyone watching to confront their own role as a consumer. Because if exploitation exists, it doesn't survive without an audience. Public outrage didn't stay focused on one show or one storyline. It spread outward. People started dragging other reality TV moments into the conversation. Old breakdowns, on-screen fights that went too far, family members crying while cameras stayed steady. Suddenly, this wasn't just Chrisean versus Zeus. This was a referendum on the entire genre. Celebrities started chiming in indirectly, which always means directly, without naming names. Tweets about networks that profit off pain. Instagram stories about knowing your worth beyond the camera. Vague posts about being pressured to perform trauma for entertainment. Nobody said Zeus out loud, but the silence around the name said enough. The sarcasm online got sharper. If chaos is content, where's the line? At what point does entertainment become extraction? When does they signed a contract stop being a defense? People weren't just clowning anymore. They were critiquing. And critique spreads faster than outrage because it sticks around longer. What really sent the conversation into overdrive was the growing number of former reality participants sharing their own stories. Not always from Zeus, but from the industry as a whole. Stories about being encouraged to argue, being isolated from support systems, being told conflict equals relevance. It painted a picture of an ecosystem where instability isn't a bug. It's a feature. Chrisean supporters argued that her family never stood a chance. They weren't media trained. They weren't prepared for internet backlash. They didn't understand how a moment filmed in anger could live forever online. And yet, those moments became the backbone of episodes people binged casually, like it was fictional drama instead of real lives unraveling. Of course, the backlash against Chrisean didn't disappear. Critics accused her of rewriting history. of blaming the network for chaos she willingly participated in, of trying to distance herself from consequences by shifting the narrative. And that argument landed for some people, but it didn't erase the discomfort. Because even if both things were true, participation doesn't automatically cancel exploitation. Two truths can exist at the same time, and the internet hates that Zeus maintained its denial, standing firm on contracts and consent. Legally clean, publicly calm, but the tone didn't sit right with everyone. Because corporate silence always sounds confident until it doesn't, and viewers started noticing how the network addressed the claims. Not with empathy, not with reflection, but with distance. That response might work in a boardroom, but online, it often reads as cold. The outrage cycle took on a life of its own. Hashtags trended. Commentary videos hit millions of views. People debated whether reality TV should have ethical standards beyond legality, whether networks should intervene when family members clearly struggle, whether viewers should stop supporting content that profits off visible harm. Heavy questions for a platform built on light entertainment. What made this phase so explosive was how relatable it felt. People saw themselves in the story. Families dragged into situations they didn't choose. Trauma turned into spectacle. Power imbalances masked as opportunity. And when relatability enters the chat, things get personal fast. By the end of this stage, the narrative had fully evolved. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was a conversation about boundaries, capitalism, and the cost of visibility. And Chrisean, whether intentionally or not, had become the face of that conversation. The outrage didn't burn out. It hardened. Because once people start questioning the ethics of something they've been consuming for years, the fallout doesn't disappear with the next headline. It lingers. It reshapes perception. And the internet could feel it. This story wasn't peaking. It was transforming. The memes slowed down. The jokes thinned out. And what replaced them was something far more dangerous for a network: scrutiny. When the outrage stopped screaming and started settling, that's when the real consequences kicked in. Not the trending kind. Not the viral clip kind. The kind that quietly rewrites reputations, relationships, and power dynamics long after the internet moves on to the next distraction. Because accusations like this don't just disappear. They stain. And everyone involved feels it differently. For Chrisean Rock, the aftermath was complicated. On one hand, she gained something she'd never really had before: public empathy. Not universal support, but understanding. People stopped seeing her as just chaotic entertainment and started viewing her as someone who may have been navigating a system designed to profit off her instability. And once that perception shifts, it doesn't fully reverse. But empathy doesn't come without consequences. Because when you challenge a powerful platform, you don't just expose a system, you risk being pushed out of it. Industry insiders started whispering about her being difficult, unreliable, a liability. Funny how those labels only show up when someone starts questioning the rules of the game. The same chaos that once made her valuable suddenly became inconvenient. Her family felt the fallout too. The internet doesn't know how to disengage gently. Old clips resurfaced again, this time framed as evidence instead of entertainment. Family members who never signed up to be public figures were suddenly being analyzed, judged, and psychoanalyzed by strangers. And that's the part nobody warns you about. Once something goes viral, it doesn't just belong to you anymore. It belongs to everyone with an opinion and a Wi-Fi connection. Meanwhile, Zeus Network faced a different kind of reckoning. Not lawsuits, not immediate cancellations. Something far more dangerous to a brand built on chaos, skepticism. Viewers didn't stop watching overnight, but they started watching differently. Scenes that once felt exciting now felt uncomfortable. Conflict didn't hit the same. And once an audience starts questioning intent, the illusion cracks. Sponsors and partners don't like controversy that smells structural. One-off drama is easy to spin. Systemic accusations? Not so much. Even without public fallout, the conversation alone forces internal reviews, quiet meetings, risk assessments. Because networks survive on plausible deniability. And once the word exploitation enters the chat, deniability gets expensive. The public perception of reality TV itself took a hit. People began openly asking why emotional collapse is considered binge-worthy, why unresolved trauma gets packaged as arcs, why networks rarely show healing unless it leads to another breakdown later. And those questions don't just target one company. They threaten an entire formula that's been profitable for years. Chrisean didn't declare victory. She didn't go on a redemption tour. She didn't wrap her story in a neat moral bow. She went quieter, and that silence spoke volumes. Because silence after exposure doesn't mean retreat. Sometimes it means boundaries. Sometimes it means stepping back before being pulled back into the same cycle that caused the damage in the first place. Fans debated whether this would change anything. Some argued the machine would keep running, just with new faces. Others believed this moment cracked something open, that even if the system doesn't collapse, it might hesitate next time. And in industries built on speed and spectacle, hesitation is a threat. What lingered most wasn't outrage. It was discomfort. The kind that sticks with you the next time you press play. The kind that makes you wonder who's benefiting from the chaos you're consuming. The kind that makes entertainment feel less harmless than it used to. And discomfort is contagious. This story didn't end with a dramatic showdown or a clear winner. It ended with a question mark. One that follows Chrisean into every future appearance. One that shadows Zeus with every new rollout. One that forces viewers to decide whether they're okay with how much pain gets turned into profit. And that's the real aftermath. Not canceled shows. Not viral apologies. But a permanent shift in how the story is seen. Because once the curtain gets pulled back, even a little, the magic never looks the same again. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a reminder. Fame doesn't protect people. Contracts don't guarantee ethics. And entertainment doesn't erase responsibility. And whatever comes next, another denial, another breakdown, another headline, it will always be filtered through this moment. Because once someone exposes the machine, the noise never sounds the same again. All right, pause everything. Because if you're still here, you already know this wasn't just another messy reality TV headline. This was one of those stories that makes you lean back and say, yeah, something about this doesn't sit right. And if that thought crossed your mind even once, then congratulations, you're officially part of the conversation. Now do the algorithm a favor and smash that like button like it just denied everything with a straight face. Don't tap it politely. Don't hesitate. Hit it with the same energy people use when they realize their favorite show might actually be feeding off chaos. Likes tell the system, run this up, people need to see this. Next, I need you in the comments. No fence sitting. Do you think Chrisean Rock exposed something real about how reality TV works? Or is this just another case of the game turning on the player? Is Zeus playing clean? Or is this what happens when drama becomes currency? Say it out loud. This is where the real show continues. And you're watching this without subscribing. That's wild behavior. Hit subscribe like it's the boundary reality TV never learned to respect. Because scandals don't slow down over here, they multiply. One exposure leads to another, and trust me, this won't be the last time a network ends up in damage control mode. Turn on notifications too, because chaos doesn't give warnings. 1 minute it's silence, the next minute someone's dropping receipts and rewriting the narrative. And when that happens, you don't want